we have one special guest here tonight. Who's heard of Chris Smith? Okay. Who's heard of what he voted on cap and trade? They've heard all that. Who would like somebody to stand up and oppose Chris Smith in a Republican primary? Me too. We have the pleasure of introducing you tonight, Terry McGowan. Yep. Former Navy SEAL. Applause right there. Fireman, police officer, civilian Iraq War veteran. And here he is.
Thank you very much. First off, I want to tell you, I want to apologize in advance. I'm not a professional politician. I've never done this before. And the first indication is I'm going to be very brief. I don't really, this came up the last minute, and I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. So rather than go into a lot of detail about issues and everything else, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes introducing myself to you and hopefully getting some of your support. I grew up down in Maryland. My father was an intelligence analyst for the National Security Agency. So I've always had this kind of world view. I always looked at world politics a little bit different. I joined the Navy. I was a SEAL. I did 2 deployments overseas with SEAL Team 5. I got out of the Navy. I was a volunteer firefighter. I was a police officer in Somerville, New Jersey. Most recently, I went back in service of my country. I went to Iraq. I did 2 deployments where I ran a airborne intelligence asset. So, I've always been in these service type roles. I've always had this deep personal, a sense of personal responsibility for my country. And my wife, she won't let me go to Afghanistan. I'm too fat to be an astronaut. So this seemed like the next best thing to do. I've spent many of you here, I spent my time voting. My choice was a Democrat or Chris Smith. And first and foremost, I want to thank Chris Smith, even though he's not here. In general, I want to thank him for 30 years of service. I really do. As I'm learning now, this is not easy. But nonetheless, I didn't feel we were getting our money's worth from Chris Smith, and I didn't like voting for him. And the result of that was apathy started to set in. And I know this group knows it better than most, that apathy is clearly the enemy of democracy. And maybe it's because of my Navy training or what have you, but I don't like being apathetic, and I felt the need that somebody needed to stand up. And inevitably in my life, whenever I've said somebody needs to stand up, I look around and I realize, oh crap, it's me. So what I need from you, I am not a professional politician. I have literally no money. I have 2 months to be the 30-year incumbent in a primary. But I'm also a firm believer in the underdog. I'm a firm believer that if you're doing it for the right reasons, things will work out. So what I'm going to ask you all is, when you're leaving, we have a bunch of flyers over there. If you could pick them up. We're looking for people to go on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/McGowan2012. It's on the flyer. You don't have to be a member of Facebook to see the page. But if you get on that page, download some flyers, distribute some flyers. I'm going to work with your leadership here and getting the word out to the other tea parties, but I need volunteers and I need help. Thank you all very much. And thank you very much for what you've all really appreciate it. Any questions? Yes.
Harry, I'm not familiar with your platform. Can you fill me in, please?
I'm just about as conservative of a fiscal conservative as anyone you've met. Of course, I say that knowing which room I'm in, maybe not. But I'm very much conservative. I pride myself on being very good at breaking down subjects quickly, analyzing them, and then making decisions. That was a skill set that I used quite a bit in my duties in Iraq. A fiscal conservative. I can't. One of the things that really stuck with me was seeing the media vilify the evil 1%, while virtually ignoring the fact that 50% of this country pays no taxes at all. That's a tremendous problem. My concern is for that top 40% or so in there. Their taxes keep going up. They're making more money, but their wealth is plateaued. They're not getting any wealthier, and that's a significant problem. And someone like me, a father or two with a mortgage and a couple of kids, his primary concern is his tax bill. That's a serious problem, and that's my main issue. I want to see some sort of fair tax reform.
Thank you.
Do you accept donations?
I don't know the rules on that.
Not official establishing a bank account. We just got off that.
See, told you I'm a rookie.
Military. I know your stand. I'll tell you when you stand on the Second Amendment, right to carry and cast.
As a police officer, I saw some interesting things. Some mindset, particularly that I also have a little bit of insight. And I grew up in Maryland, and now I live in New Jersey. Very quickly, I'll give you the down and dirty of the story. When I was a police officer, there was a man from Texas driving through. He had a U-Haul, and he was taking his daughter's stuff off to college. We had been having a problem. Some of the detectives walked up on his car. He was sleeping in the car, and they found him, and they saw the gun on the seat. And they arrested him and charged him with a second-degree crime of unlawful possession of a weapon. This is a man who was a clean record, upstanding citizen, and the other officers were happy about this arrest. And they were shocked when I took a stand and said, "Are you kidding me? You mean to tell me that when you drive out of state, you don't take your gun with you? It's not in the car with you?" And they all got very quiet at that. There's a real mindset, particularly in the Northeast, and, well, I guess on the coast, of, it's okay for the cops to have guns, but not the people. And I firmly disagree with that. I think the Constitution is very clear, and Yes, sir.
I know you're a social. I know that you're a fiscal conservative. Are you a social conservative?
Yes, sir. I'm pro-life. I'd like to point out that I'm pro-life, and that's another problem I have with Chris Smith. And I appreciate his stance and I appreciate his votes on those matters. However, there's more to being a congressman than one issue.
Right.
Being a congressman is about leadership. It's not necessarily about votes. It's about being able to take a stand. And with this district in particular, being so heavily Republican, this position offers a possibility to really drive forward some conservative ideas without risking your seat.
Are you pro-marriage between a man and a woman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The mayor down there lied that he was a veteran of the Vietnam War and that he was
Repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's asking about a mayor in Stratford, you said, who lied about his military service. He said he was a Vietnam vet. I think I did hear about that, yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing. Make sure you get yours out there. Now, the only reason this was exposed is because the president of the scandal party down there, her husband was killed in Afghanistan. And she checked his background and found out that he was not a veteran of the war. And she resigned as the head of the GOP and left the party. So make sure you get that out there. Let these people know you're a veteran.
Absolutely. He wants me to make sure I make it clear to everyone that they know I'm a veteran. Unlike our president, there are plenty of people in my background that would have pictures and stories about what I've done. Not that I'd want all those to come out, but... any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your... Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Terry,
Who do you plan to support for president?
That's a good one. I have to be honest, I'm not particularly thrilled with our options. I know I don't particularly like Mitt Romney very much. And I'm embarrassed to say I can't really put my finger on it. It's more of a gut reaction. Out of who's left?
You want 10 fingers?
I mean, that leaves me essentially with Rick Santorum. I like him. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he means what he says. It's hard to separate yourself from the hype of the media. And so I guess that's what's holding me back from being an all-out Rick Santorum supporter. That's the best I can do for you right now.
What would you do with those who went to Congress in 2010 seem to have been squelched by John Boehner and other leaders? What do you think, in general, what do you think of John Boehner's use of all those Tea Party candidates that we got in 2010?
Well, I think whenever you have a radical shift, and that's what it was. It was a radical shift. I personally think it was a good radical shift, and there's others that would disagree. But I think it was a good thing to happen. Whenever you have that, though, you always have those that are missed the boat. The establishment, they missed the boat. And frankly, I find it warms my heart that I have people senior to me in age telling me about how the establishment's bad. So you'll have people that miss the boat. They don't see the writing on the wall. They don't understand where it's going, and frankly, change is scary. So.
One more question on here.
Yes, sir.
Jerry, have you read about Agenda 21?
Agenda 21, the UN climate thing. Yeah. I've read a little about it. I'm sure you can school me on it, but I have read a little bit about it. The one thing I read, I think it was in Brazil when they talked about. It was supposed to be about climate, but there was a comment in Brazil about how wage earners weren't equal, and that's when I knew. Yeah, well, that's when I knew. When I started reading that, they were talking about how wages weren't equally distributed, and clearly that has nothing to do with our form of government. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Gary, thank you very much. Hey, hand for Navy SEAL. It's your team.